Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. All right, welcome back to episode 78 of the On the Table Gaming Podcast. I'm Chase, and today I'm joined with the celebrity getting the shout out at the Q&A before all the stuff starts at CMON Expo, Mike Meeple. Mike, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good, Chase.
That must felt pretty good.
You know, it was completely unexpected. When I was listening, I was kind of just sitting around, listening to it. I had my boy trying to get him to calm down and then to take a nap, and I was just kind of listening to it. And then all of a sudden I was loud. I was like, wait, what?
So for those of you tuning in, and maybe you missed it, but this last weekend was the CMON Expo 2020, which was originally going to be an in-person expo the week before and was unfortunately canceled due to COVID-19. They decided to go virtual, and during the Q&A, right in the first few minutes getting started, we're making some small chat, and Fabio checks to show off some of the miniatures he's been working on painting, and he gives a shout out to Mike Meeple because, Mike, you've been... Your video session with him has helped him really make a lot of progress and pick up some of those skills to start getting his miniatures painted up and on the table.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the things that he was showing off. I think he was working on his Crow Clan, is what he said, for Blood Rage, and all I could think was, oh yeah, like the stuff that we went over with the Night's Watch would work great with those massive amounts of guys on the board sort of a games like Blood Rage. So, and then his troll, I think it's a troll thing. I don't know. I don't have Blood Rage. It looks really cool, but like it was like a troll with like a flaming sword that he showed off. That looked great. He's doing a great job.
I feel like they gotta hook you up, man. Now you got like official or unofficial sponsor of the CMON Expo 2020, Mike Meeple. You gotta hook him up some Blood Rage, somebody, so you can get some of those painted up. We gotta get Fabio to finish his set.
I know. So I will say I was a little disappointed this year. I do have one complaint about the CMON Expo because all these years I've heard the CMON Expo has amazing swag bags if you go. And I went. We all went this year.
That's true. That is true. I definitely feel like I went this year.
And I didn't get anything. I don't know.
What we got was the spirit of community and friendship. That's what we got.
No, it was good. It was good. I actually really had a cool time, and being able to kind of do that when I realistically would probably not be able to go to something like that until my son's a lot older, sort of a thing. It was really nice to be able to kind of experience that, even though it's digital. So I really appreciated the effort on CMON's part and by you, because I mean you were working like a dog, man.
Oh my goodness, it was exciting. It was so much excitement for one weekend, but I couldn't believe I had so much fun. I think I actually, and maybe it's just because of the digital format, but I think I actually prefer doing the Q&As on a live stream like that than a panel with them like asking members of the audience, because when they kind of mix it and they're taking people from the chat and from the audience, you can't always hear what people are asking.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this way it was like really clean and easy to do it.
Well, and it's good that way, and this is gonna kind of sound anti-community, I guess, but I mean, it gives them an opportunity to kind of curate the questions they're gonna field, right?
That's true.
And luckily I didn't see anything like that with this, but I've been to, when I was younger, I've been to other like Q&As with celebrities or something like that, and every now and then there's that one bonkers guy that's going to ask some weird question, and this way they kind of were like, oh, okay, this is a good question that we can field, and it's going to be giving something to the audience and to the community. So able to follow along really, really well. I hope they keep doing it, even when, I'm not going to say if, even when the conventions open up and get back to normal. So I'm hoping they still maintain something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, the CMON people are super awesome and really friendly and helpful, and I just want to extend a thank you to inviting me to the expo. If anyone's listening from CMON Games, it is weird because I always say CMON Games, but now I
Mhm.
guess it is officially CMON Games. And I just find myself,
Oh,
I just say CMON Games when I'm around official CMON people. And then when I'm not around them, I say CMON Games. But it was really fun. And, I heard some feedback on it. Some people didn't find Facebook as intuitive. There were some people who don't use Facebook at all. But I get why they were doing it there. It honestly is just easier to have it all in one ecosystem versus
mhm.
being on, multiple fronts. Because
Definitely.
I don't know if people realize that when you're at a convention, there's a lot of moving pieces, and especially now when it's digital, like none of the people are in the same room, so everyone's communicating over these vast distances. So just trying to keep it simple and locked onto one platform. you know I think if you're not a Facebook user, that's challenging, but I think otherwise it made sense why they were going that route.
Yeah.
But I just had a blast. Everyone was so nice, and the community was awesome. I do have to say one thing. I sent out a document with people could submit Q&A questions. There was a lot of great ones in there. I tried to use them as fillers when the conversations got slow, but there were probably 30 plus comments from the A Song of Ice and Fire French community. Many of them in French, and I translated some, and some I couldn't quite piece together. I have very poor French skills, but big shout out to A Song of Ice and Fire France. Those guys are killing it. They do such great work, and they're huge supporters of the game. They've got their own kind of like French ecosystem of content creators, and the tip of the hat to them if any of them happen to be listening. So keep up doing all that awesome work, and hopefully in the future either my French will get better, or I'll put a disclaimer to see if someone can translate them into English for me. Uh, but it was cool to see that kind of outpouring. But without further ado, let's jump into it. There's a bunch of cool things revealed for A Song of Ice and Fire, and man, I mean, it started early. I mean, obviously the big news is going to be Greyjoys, but before we get to that, or maybe it's not, maybe there were other things shown at the end that were bigger. But let's start off with the attachments.
Mhm.
The first attachment that was revealed was the Clegane Butcher, a 2-point attachment for cavalry with the ability Spread Fear. So each time an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, one other enemy within long range of that unit becomes panicked. And he also has the ability Weaken Resolve. When an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, that unit becomes weakened. Mike, I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think it's gonna fit right in with Knights of Casterly Rock. I think because I mean Knights of Casterly Rock does so much damage, and then you put in Weaken Resolve, right? And then guess what? Now Knights of Casterly Rock have staying power with that
Yeah.
with the engagement, because that was always their big weakness, right? They would ride in, they'd hit you hard, and then they were kind of sucky, right? If they were attached to you. But now they're gonna get hit back by someone with weaken, so it just gives them that extra chance to back off so that they can charge again. I think it's really it's ugly. I don't want to deal with it as a player who doesn't play Lannisters, but I think it's really good. And I think the point cost is about right too. 2 points sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of having that Dreadfort ability
Mm-hmm.
of, spreading the panic token in addition to the Weaken Resolve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's definitely a 2-point attachment.
Yeah,
Go
because you're
ahead.
going to get them both, right? You get them both right at the same time. It's
Yeah.
not like you have to take your pick. It's like as soon as you charge in with the lances, and they fail that panic test, boom, they get two tokens. That could
Yeah.
go into so many of the Lannister armies.
Just nice. It's just nice to have some Lannister Cav attachments that aren't the Mountain, who is
Yes.
technically still not tournament legal. I mean, and I think Lannister players also. I mean, I think I start to get like stereotypes of certain types of players. How vocal certain communities are, and I know it's not fair, but you see certain members in the community that represent certain factions in the way they talk, and I feel like Lannister players are very patient, and it's just nice to see them getting shown a little bit of love here with this attachment. I think it's going to be one that's going to be used widely and is going to open up a lot of list building for them.
Yeah, they haven't. I mean, what was the last unit that they got? I think it was Poor Fellows.
Yeah.
And that was like 6 months ago. So they've been very, very patient, and they've been essentially rocking the same builds
Right.
for a while now. So
Yeah.
this will be good for them to get some of that diversity.
So they kind of like in the beginning, the Lannisters like defined the meta, right? They had
Mm.
so many things that people had to react to and have to figure out like what is your answer for this. As more units have come out and people have started to pick up those answers, you can start to see when it's like, oh, they're not lagging behind in a release, but a few more tools in their arsenal would maybe make them have some more compelling choices at time. Moving on, we've got the Starks. We've got the Mormont Veteran, a 1-point infantry attachment with awesome artwork. It's like a pirate lady. She's got an eye patch. I was just like, this is so cool. And she is hardened. That is a girl, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right. She has the ability hardened. Each time this unit is attached after defense dice are rolled for each of its destroyed ranks, it automatically blocks one additional hit. It's kind of an interesting design. We haven't seen this before.
It I like it mostly because it gives me an idea of, well, first of all, it tells me that more months are on their way, which is
Right.
really cool. But it also kind of gives you an idea of how they might play, right? So we've got a little bit of the, um, uh, whereas typically Starks, when they get hurt, right, they start to fight harder. This one, when they get hurt, they start to defend better,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool, and it ties in with that berserker. I could easily see putting this in a berserker. I could easily see putting this in sworn swords real easy.
Oh,
Not sworn swords. Yeah, sworn swords. I'm thinking. Put this in sworn
or
swords
even
real
Tully
easy.
Tully sworn shields though. Even I mean, they're not gonna take. Actually, maybe that's being too redundant. Then isn't it? They're already
Yeah,
gonna block D3
I think
hits.
yeah, I think that's a little redundant because I mean, I mean, realistically, how often do you get
Right.
sworn shields down past
That's
even that first
that's
rank,
true.
right?
That's
You
true.
people just avoid them because they're slow. You throw this in something that is kind of soft, right? One might even argue that you could put this in the bowman. Um,
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
yeah, right. Because it just says when they're attacked. It doesn't say when they're attacked by melee or range. Just every
Right.
time they're attacked. So if someone's shooting back at them, if somebody has closed the distance, it's just going to help give them some sustainability. And for 1 point, I think it's a steal.
And I think, it's 100% what you're saying. It is definitely hinting at future Mormont units. And I'm excited to see how that sub faction builds out. I keep forgetting that there are so many of these allies for the House Stark, right? So there's because we haven't even talked about Karstarks, right? Like that's a thing out there that we haven't had any reference to in the game yet.
Oh no, we've gotten Umbers, we've gotten um,
Tully,
Tullys. Now we're getting Mormonts.
Morm
We haven't gotten Karstarks.
but like I just keep
Um,
forgetting, like there was someone who asked in the Q&A, like, hey, are we only gonna get like our factions like basically completed? Like, hey, they got 10 units. Are they no longer making more things? And it's just like, oh yeah, there's so much left that they can do.
yeah. I wonder if the Karstarks are going to be neutral.
Interesting.
Because they were the other house. I mean, House Bolton gets most of the bad news with the Red Wedding, right?
Right.
But they also teamed up with Karstarks in order to
Right.
to pull that off. So I just wonder if they're going to be more of a neutral faction. But
That
I don't
would
know.
be cool. Or even if like I'm excited to see if down the line they do some more things like no coin beyond the wall, where there's like a single
Mhm.
card that comes with them, and it's like Karstarks can go with in a neutral force or in a Stark force, and like
Like they don't side with Lannisters. It's
right,
like they can only be neutral or Stark.
right. But I do know for Karstarks, I was doing a little bit of homework prior to the weekend, and some of it didn't pay off. But one of the ones I did find that I never get to bring up or ask about in more depth in the last year, 2019 CMON Expo, someone had asked about like finding source inspiration, and Michael Chanel went into great depth about the Karstarks being spearmen with
Hmm.
like tower shields or something with like an emblem on it. and how he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, and then everyone was like, oh, that must mean that they're in the game. He's like, I never said that. But that he had like such a vivid expectation, like such a vivid memory of that line and that detail. I'm like, that must mean something. Like I'm siding on the internet of speculation on this because it's
He
like, why would else did you say that?
thought
You
of
know?
that. There's a
Yeah,
reason he
exactly.
thought
Like
of
that's your example. That's like oddly specific.
that.
Um, but who knows? But the Mormont Veteran 1 point jumping in there. It does feel like whatever unit it really goes with, though, like it may have a synergy that is greater than what it seems now with its,
Mm,
Mormont unit.
mm.
Okay, all that stuff is just like entree. It's all like side dishes here. Now we get to the entree, the Walrus Clan Chieftain.
Boo.
This is what we really want
Boo.
to talk about here, and then we'll just cut the rest of the
Boo.
podcast. So he has the order resilience, and let's just talk about how crazy this is. This order, when this unit is attacked, after attack dice are rolled, the unit only suffers 1 wound for every 2 unblocked hits. It's like you're a giant.
It's stupid. It is
This
the
is
dumbest
amazing.
thing.
So
No, it's so dumb. I
here's the
hate
thing,
it.
though. How many points do you think that is?
Yes. I I think that's got to be at least 2 points.
Right.
No,
People are saying it's either like 1 or 2. I mean, that's like because obviously it's not 3. But
yeah.
um I
Could be
don't
3 though. It
you
could
think
be.
so? Oh, then I would not expect it to see a lot of play.
Yeah, but I mean, you could see it. You could see putting that into something that is, kind of glass cannony, right?
Yeah.
Like the cave dwellers, right?
Right.
Um,
Oh yeah.
um, but because then it still is kind of a cheaper kind of a cheaper unit. But I think it's got to be 2. I can't see it being 1. It's too good for
Right. Because you
1.
could be you can abuse this. Like because the question is like, do you put him in an elite unit?
Mhm.
Do you put him in your followers of bone? Do you put him in your cave dwellers? Your Then would be an excellent choice, and make a like expensive durable unit. Or like, are you throwing this in your cheap insignificant units? And it's like, yeah, good luck killing my insignificant trappers or raiders. It's now a 4 point unit that can tar pit you for quite some time. And when you do kill it, like, oh well, no victory point.
Yeah. I think there are some really good options for this for this attachment. I think my number one pick is Cave Dwellers. I think Fen is really good just because then you're getting them you're forcing the charge and then you're blocking the 2 hits. But I like them in Trappers too. I think Trappers are really solid because I think Trappers their big weakness right now is cavalry, right? Cavalry
Right.
move on from they get that first free
Hidden
maneuver, so
traps.
they're
Oh,
right. Yeah, so they get past the hidden traps the first time, and then from there they might at that point they might even be able to shoot without triggering the hidden traps depending on the range, right?
right.
So I think this is going to really help them a lot. I think that so um I think that this is a really strong card with a lot of really good options. And I think a lot of people are going to be buying multiple boxes of Free Folk attachment boxes just for this attachment.
Yeah. That I think that makes sense. And once again, does this hint at there being a Walrus Clan unit?
I think it has to. It
I
has to,
mean,
right?
you gotta just be good at painting bone because it looks like these guys are also gonna be like well adorned with walrus tusks and other cool stuff.
Ivory, right? It's ivory.
Yeah, there we go. You're right, ivory. The I think you're making a point there with the cave dweller savages though, and the cave dweller savages already right now maybe not quite they're not the favorite son anymore in the faction, but their morale bonus is so significant for keeping the damage off,
Yes.
and their 6+ armor save isn't going to cut it. Dropping this guy in there, even if it was 2 points in the right list, a 7 point unit that has 4+ morale and only takes, 1 wound for every 2 unblock hits. That's enough that they can charge in there. And if something goes wrong and they're going to get hit back once, they'll at least be standing to do so.
And it's half damage, right? It's half damage.
Yeah.
Like that's the way you got to look at
Heck,
it.
I'm
It's
wondering, like, is it worth even dropping onto like something like Spear Wives where their attack profile is 7/7? It's not going to drop down in the second rank. You can basically guarantee that you're able to get those hits off for relatively cheap.
yeah,
And
that's
take a skin changer.
Fuck off.
You know, I mean, the thing is they're going to be so tanky in that you can use, the bear to block charges anyway, and then having this. I mean, there's just going to be so many cool options.
It's really expensive though with the
That is,
bear. Like
I
that's
mean, with
getting up there.
and free folk points, yeah. Even when I'm like, it's a 2-point attachment, part of me is like, oh, 2 points. That's like, almost a raider unit. All right, then we got the Harden Rangers, and out of everything I've said so far, this is the thing that scares me the most. Because first off, and it might just be because I play so much Free Folk, I just think Night's Watch is scary to begin with. Like that's the bad guys you're squaring off with, at least in my mind. And the Hardened Ranger has the ability Bushwhack. Enemies this unit successfully charge in the flank or rear become panicked and weakened. And then they have Elusive Escape. This unit may reroll all retreat distance rolls. Enemies this unit disengage from suffer D3 wounds and may not pivot. What?
This is so good. This
It's,
is
I mean,
everything that I wanted from the Ranger Hunters when they first came out. This
right,
is what I wanted the Ranger Hunters
right.
to be.
Yeah,
Where
wait, Ranger Hunters already have quick fire, so after they
now
complete a
now they
maneuver,
do.
they can make a retreat, a free ranged attack. They also have Swift Strike. I mean, all those combos together. I mean, the only saving grace is that however expensive this is, it's starting at an 8-point unit. You're putting it in there, but
Huh.
my
Huh.
God, just brutal.
It's awful. It's so good. And as a Night's Watch player, I'm super excited. Call it though that this is going to be an expensive attachment.
Yeah.
This is going to probably be 3 points.
I'm
Would be
not a
my guess.
good yeah, I'm not a good number cruncher, but I mean, what is the value, like numerically, of them suffering D3 wounds and not being able to pivot? I mean, it means that you're going to be able
In the back
to,
again.
yeah, you're going to be able to, no matter, like you can, let's see. So Swift Strike, after this attack is completed, you make a free retreat action.
Boom.
Oh, so you're going to be all over the place. Like I'm trying to do the math here, but it
Then they don't.
almost seems like you could charge the front and
Yes.
get to the rear just by comboing all these abilities?
Yes. So like, look, you charge the front, right? Back, right? You Swift Strike, get the free retreat.
And then you quick fire.
Retreat to the side, right? 3 wounds. They can't pivot, and you quick
And you get the
fire
quick fire, yeah.
there, right?
And that's
So
all in the flank.
that
Right off the
and yeah,
bat.
that becomes flanked. Now, if you start it from the back or from the side, it's crazy.
These are just dancing all around.
This is really gonna open up the list. I shouldn't say open up, but this will really help define that second or even third Night's Watch playstyle, right? Because
Yeah.
because really we see Sworn Bros, right? We see Sworn Bros, we see a little bit of the builders, because of the crossbows, but we see a lot of Sworn Bros, we see a lot of conscripts kind of helping out and whatnot, but I think that this is really going to open up and give us this third, like, hardcore ranged fast Night's Watch, which is just scary. I can see running this with Awful Yarwick, who's like my favorite commander, just because he can make whatever weapons you have, whatever kind of weapons he
Oh,
wants.
yeah. Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like
Oh,
you
God.
pull away with the free maneuver, and then you throw might. I think it's the mighty attachment where you're essentially shooting great swords at them. So they've got exploding sixes at range with sundering.
The more I hadn't thought fully through this, and the more you talk about it, the more I'm just like, oh gosh, this is gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be a thing.
It's totally gonna be a thing.
But Night Watch players everywhere can rejoice.
Expect to see as long as it's not. Well, okay. I think what's going to keep it from being a thing is its point cost, because I'm calling. Like I said, I think it's going to be 3 points, and that's going to be expensive.
And it's not going to be when people are buying multiple multiple boxes for. It's like you got your one, you're probably not taking 3 of them in a list.
Exactly. You're going to put that in your hunters, and then you're going to have your hunters be essentially the Death Star, which they kind of already are. And then you're going to run some conscripts to back it up, right? Because conscripts go well with Othel Yarwick too, because it buffs them quite a bit. And then you'll probably see a tracker in there to hand out whatever tokens and hit people from the back, and then maybe one unit of Sworn Bros if you can fit it in. I can't do the math in my head right now, but it's probably going to look something like that. Would be my guess.
Man, scary. And speaking of scary, we also have the Lord of Dragonstone. It's a 1-point Baratheon cavalry attachment that is loyal to Stannis Baratheon. And the key thing with this is you can only ever include 2 Lords of Dragonstone. And his order is Sentinel. After another friendly unit within long range is attacked, this unit may make a free charge or maneuver action. If charging, it must target the attacking enemy. Wow. So at 1 point, that seems like a generous attachment to have.
I mean, it's Watcher on the Wall, but better, right?
Yeah, and I mean, at 11 points, you're champion to the stag. I mean, I feel like with all of the abilities they have at 11 points, I'm not quite balking at that quite as much as I thought I would. Like when it first came out, I was like 10 points. Like any attachments they get, it's gonna be a hard sell. I don't know. I think this is one that you can sell me on.
No, I think it's really worth it. I mean, again, you'll need, just like how I was talking about the Hardened Ranger and the Ranger Hunters, being a Death Star and building a list around it. This is going to be the same thing. You're going to kind of build a list around this, and you're going to. I can see it now in my head. You're going to have some wardens going up the side, right? And you're going to probably put Stannis in one of the warden units, be 8 essentially, but Stannis in wardens is going to be still hard to kill. And then you're going to have this Lord of Dragonstone just following around and just guarding that Stannis and killing whoever gets close to attacking to attacking that Stannis. And even though they only have 4 speed, the champions of the stag, with this, I mean, the free maneuver action plus a free charge, I mean, that's a long distance. Right. That's not even happening on their turn. That's not their activation.
Yeah. I mean, and that's those out of activation damage situations that the Baratheons can pull up. I mean, I think maybe one of the drawbacks of this is Baratheons are a little bit spoiled for choice when it comes to options for a relatively few amount of trigger keywords, right? And after a friendly unit within long range is attacked, that keyword is one that shares a lot of common ground with other tactics cards. So you're going to have to make some smart choices of when you want to play your cards, but you're certainly going to have the opportunity to play your cards or your order. It's just a matter of prioritizing the situation. So now I think you brought this up earlier. There was talk about, how there's only 2 in your army. And I think it was Michael that hinted at there being another version of this.
It was like a solo. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's probably, I'm making a prediction here, how people will play it, because taking 2 of this attachment in Baratheon cavalry would be 22 points of your army and two. So I'm assuming it's going to be like 1 in your cav and then 1 solo that if you run 2, because otherwise that's a good chunk of points.
You could do that, but I just don't know.
I honestly don't, I know they're out on Tabletop Simulator, but I haven't really run into or run the Champions of Stag. I don't know. They seem to be a really tanky unit, and that's not typically, I think, the way I've seen a lot of their cavalry played. But with this guy in them, that extra attack on the charge, that free charge that's not part of their activation, that's when those critical blows and those Champions Wrath, like the weakened tokens thing, start to really add up. So maybe being able to attack twice in a row on 8 dice on 3+, that's their lances basically, but better.
I was also thinking about this, that Zorse Riders is a good option for this too, right?
Oh,
Because it'll help them get that free charge to their flank, right? To give them that weaken token. And then now all of a sudden, everything that is already in a tanky army is even tankier. So that was just one thought that I had. But I
yeah.
like doing those weird combos where it's like, oh, nobody's thinking about this. This is clearly not what it's supposed to do, but
But, they can't play their tactics cards. It's a safe way to get your 2 attacks in there.
exactly.
Ah, interesting. I like it. So that's always a blind spot for me. I think Michael was on the podcast not too long ago, and I was talking about, the relatively few options that armies have in some cases, et cetera. And he's like, don't forget the neutrals. So it's always good to have you, someone thinking outside the box. Someone's got to be thinking of the neutrals. So thank you, Mike. All right, then we do have some also, not besides attachments, we also had some reveals for House Targaryen. And I'm going to give a shout out to 2 painters who have helped me tremendously. So first off, your tutorials on Khal Drogo, that was incredibly helpful on me trying to figure out how to do horses,
Oh, cool.
and got me inspired to start up my Targaryens here. And then I was looking at Duncan Rhodes stuff, and he has some videos on basing and on his duncanrhodes.com. And I think between the 2 of you, you guys, I mean, I think that's maybe just the go-to place for a Song of Ice and Fire painting. And so, if you guys haven't checked out both those sites, make sure you do. Mike Meeple, you've got the one thing I think that I really like about your situation is that you have been covering the game for so long. You have like a tremendous backlog of material. And so as I'm going through and painting my stuff, I keep finding like, oh yeah, like I never did paint up my Starks. Like, oh yeah, Mike Meeple has a lot of Stark stuff.
Over 50 tutorials total.
Holy crap. Okay, yeah. So, but you know what? I've been painting up my Targaryens then, and I think I'm kind of getting into it. Like, I'm in this danger zone where I'm like, I want to play Free Folk. That's my main, but like maybe Targaryens are going to be my second faction, and then later, I don't know. Now maybe Greyjoy I want to be my second faction, but Targaryen have all these cool things coming out, and
Yeah, I'm really excited about Targaryens. Like Targaryens are my secondary faction right now. Night Watch being first, and when I saw all of this stuff coming out, I was just like, yes, Targaryen love finally.
yeah. So I mean, the thing that Michael also mentioned was that the kind of style of Targaryens is that like each of their units is like its own like little super unit. And the Dothraki, now here's the hard part. I'm notoriously bad at naming things. Like I always say Screamer KO instead of Screamer Co. It's the Dothraki.
It's Co.
The Dothraki Harakars?
I think it's just Hrakars, but I could totally be wrong on that.
We need like a Dothraki linguist to come on here and be like, Mudada Midada Bahada. That was more like Jabba the Hutt or something, but Jabba was speaking Dothraki. Who knows?
I'll make sure to put out an ad for that. We'll find the 3 people in all of America that actually speak Dothraki.
Do you think we could do that? I kind of want to do that. Maybe if I do, I'm gonna do that. Oh, fine. All right. Yeah, just to ask them how to say this. So, what did we settle on?
Car.
What was it?
Car. A car like Drakkar, like the horrible cologne, but with Drakkar.
So the Dothraki.
There you go.
Mike, did he say how big the Dothraki Hakkars are?
I think he said that it was going to be a large solo unit. I think those were the words that he used.
Oh, okay. So that could be, it's like a siege base, right? That's a large solo unit.
Yeah, it's either a siege unit, like what we've seen with the Scorpions, or a giant, one of those 2 things. Either way, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to make it very easy to get in with a charge on these guys either way. And just so if you're listening at home and you for some reason you missed out on CMON Expo, they have movement of 6, and they attack with 6 dice, just 1 rank, 6 dice on a 3+, 4+ armor, 3+ morale, and it's the Hrakar and their tamers. They've got 5 wounds at the start of the activation. They get a free maneuver, But the cool thing is built in natively is they can be held off the table instead of deploying. And at the start of any round, as its activation, it can deploy fully within short range of any flank table edge. And they've got vicious. So these guys are gonna be like popping out of the bushes and attacking people in the flank.
Are I someone said it in the comments during the reveal that they are a missile, right?
Yeah.
Like they are a missile because there are so many ways I mean there to get that charge in, or to get that free attack in, sort of a thing. So I'm just like, I'm super excited about these guys. And people are going to have to be watching their backs because you can do it anywhere, right?
Right.
At the beginning of turn 2, right, I could start and just have them show up behind you, like behind your super elite ranged unit, that has been taking me out. I could have it pop up behind your siege weapons,
Oh
your
God.
rock
Yeah.
throwers, and then there's, what are you going to do against that?
Right.
I think it's super cool. And if it is a siege base, I think it's really awesome that we're starting to see those outside of the Night's Watch, because currently siege weapons and siege bases are kind of only in the builders. But if this is a siege base, then that kind of opens up that we're gonna see it in all of the factions, because I know that's been something that the community has kind of been thinking and asking is, are siege weapons only Night's Watch, or are siege weapons going to be for everything?
I mean, that'd be cool if we do see something for everything. And then this guy's going to combo so well with the base Targaryen tactics deck. Things like
Mm,
hit and run, where you can
mm.
get a free maneuver after you complete an attack, and you just charge in, or sorry, free retreat after you make an attack. Just jump out, maul something, run away. And it's got 5 wounds. You're going to turn around and chase that thing with 5 wounds. Like, I don't know about that.
What I really am seeing, I am seeing this being used with Overrun so much.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just tagging up and just going boop 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 like a pinball from the back of the army. Just you've made all this progress, and you've got your army come, you've got your forces all lined up how you want it, and then your opponent unleashed the Rakars on your weak guy in the back. Boop, 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 boop. You know,
This
it's
is
just
this is going to be scary though. As a free folk player, I've actually really enjoyed playing into Targaryens because um, I got like my huge horde. I'll just like take up so much real estate on the board, and I can like, here's my battle line. Like, I just got to watch out for your overrun, but
mm,
I can place miniatures and prep for that. But now when things are coming in from the side flanks, I feel like I'm starting to get to that point. I'd recently watched in Game of Thrones the scene where Stannis's cavalry shows up and basically conquers the free folk. Starting to see like more and more games where I'm like, oh, I can see that in the future, my free folk, huge swarm, I'm gonna be getting like people ripped off from the sides and attacked from the flank. And that doesn't, I'm gonna have to start adapting my strategies here.
be like a scary movie where like the characters on the side started getting like drug into the woods.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Or it's gonna be some, I think, with other units we'll discuss soon, the like outflank game, right? Where it's like, okay, well, you've got this thing coming up from the flank. Well, then I've got Jarl with something coming on. It's like, well,
Yeah,
you know, this like weird game of like who's gonna come in first.
yeah.
And and do you care if you're like giant lions and tamers come in and then I'm like, surprise, like spear wives. That just eats you. Like bye.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with cost,
Right.
because
It's true.
how much these are
Okay.
versus the spear wives, because I
Right.
might care, right? Like
But
if your
what
spear
point
wives,
range do you think this is?
I I want to say it's a 6 point unit
Okay.
based off
Six
of the
point unit. Okay.
based off of
Yeah,
the
maybe see
based off
that.
of the stats, but it's probably going to be closer. I'm guessing it's probably going to be 7,
I've got it
because yeah,
7 points.
I think it's probably going to be 7, but I want this to be a 6 point unit, because I think that it's going to have stat wise for the amount of damage it can do, right? Because it can only ever do 6, right? It's not like it's coming in doing 8 or 10
Right.
or anything like that, and it can die pretty quickly, right? Because 5 units, it doesn't have anything that's really going to help it survive. It doesn't have like the giants thing,
Right.
and it doesn't have like some other things where it's like they can't take damage from morale, even though their morale is excellent, right? 3+ is so good. But it doesn't have some of those things, so I'm guessing it's probably going to be 6. Wouldn't be surprised if it was 7. If it was 8, too expensive.
Man, I can't remember what are the rules for deploying. Deploying is not a movement, so that wouldn't trigger trappers, right? You could deploy
Oh,
within short range, within the range of the trackers. Yeah. Or I
at the
guess you'd
start
actually
of
want to, but then as soon as you moved, you'd get hit anyway. But maybe you'd want to deploy right outside of it. But I'm trying to think of like how do I deal? I'm like as you're talking, I'm like actually thinking like, what am I gonna do about these actually? And it's like, well, there's trappers. But it's like, how will they mess up my trappers? But I guess yeah,
Yeah, I
might
don't
be
think they really will initially,
because
right?
yeah,
Because you would deploy outside of their range, right? And then they'd get, and then probably turn around to try and face forward or whatever, and then you'd move from outside the range into range for your free maneuver, which would trigger the trappers, and then you would charge.
I guess
So
even if
that
yeah,
would trigger the trappers. So
right.
either way, they're
I'd
gonna
get
get hit for something. So that's what I
you,
mean. They have no way of defending against that. They've only got 5. That could stop them right there.
yeah, you're
Um,
right. I think I'm more inclined to say that there'd probably be 6 or 7 points. I was like, just because originally I'm like, how do you put a price on outflank?
mm,
And I know we have like 1 point attachments that do that, but there's like a certain opportunity cost. But this is really powerful, but yeah, it is a missile because it's going to explode.
exactly. It's because you have to look at also the screamers, right? The screamers are 6 points, and the screamers have 12 wounds and can deal more damage, and can move just as fast. So
Right.
I think it's going to be comparable to a screamer. It'll probably be a screamer replacement. Instead of running 2 screamers, you'll probably run a screamer and then keep a Hrakar off to the side. And then I love the Outriders, the Dothraki Outriders, and then maybe a few more things in there.
Man. And then, of course, we also have the Unsullied Pikeman, the fabled Unsullied Pikeman. People have been asking about these for a long time. There have been some people actually even asking, like, hey, are we not getting them because it's too hard to make pikes or to do the miniatures? Well, it turns out, they just had other stuff they wanted to reveal first. So they are way slower than the Unsullied Swordmasters. And this is like, what, the first 4 movement Targaryen unit. And they have Phalanx Pike, which is a 3+ to hit, and it's 8/8/4, 3+ armor, so that's +1 to the Unsullied Swordmasters, 4+ morale, so it's like the other Unsullied. They've got 2 orders. The first is set for charge, so if they're engaged, if the unit is unengaged and charged from the front, they get to make a free attack action before the enemy resolves its charge. And then they also have the order Shield Wall. When this unit is attacked from the front, after attack dice are rolled, automatically block D3 hits. And because they're unsullied, they may never gain condition tokens. That is an interesting unit.
I,
I Go ahead.
I as a Targaryen player, I look at this unit and I see that this unit is a trap. This unit looks amazing, but all I can see are the flaws, and the ways that people are going to kill me when I have this unit. Um, because I think that for the Targaryens, there are they're so fast, right? Everything is fast. Everything's either riding on a horse, so they're getting their double movement, or they are unsullied, so they've got swordsmen, so they've got their 6 movement, and this has 4. I have a feeling that while the battle is happening on the other side of the board, they are going to be just slowly walking up, and it's going to be a lot of points. I think it's super cool. Don't get me wrong. And I'm like, in a perfect world where this happens and they do get charged from the front, you're going down. But I can see this being like an 8-point unit and it never seeing combat ever.
You think so? It's the hard part. It's like, that's really it. Is that how do you account for a unit that is so one dimensional? Like it
Mm-hmm.
has a shut off button, right? It's like when the bad guys show up and they're like, "I'm invincible except for here. Like, don't hit me here." And
Exactly.
at my skill range, I am not a super crazy player. The same thing with the Lannister Halberdiers. I loved them, but like 8 times out of 10, whenever I set up this cool situation, they'd like play some fancy tactics cards or maneuver and get out of the way and attack me in the flank. Um, that being said, I think, the commander that screams for this is Grey Worm. Besides the things like refuse to yield, being able to heal up, and devastating impact, allowing them to get a little bit more distance and do more damage. That forced march, I think, is going to be so important for this
Mm-hmm.
particular unit. But then, like what you're saying before, is like, am I then dropping, resources and tactics cards into this unit when I could be using force march on like sword masters, getting them up there to get an alpha strike and not having to worry about getting charged?
Yeah, and like I said, I think that this. Don't get me wrong. I think this unit is cool, but Michael Chanel told us this unit's going to be expensive, and right, if I've got 9 or 10 points and I'm going to be spending it on Unsullied, I'm not going to pick the pikemen. I'm going to pick the swords masters because they're so good. They're so good at what they do. And I think that if this is more than 7 points, it's really going to be a tough sell for me to actually
Yeah.
field it.
Well, because the thing is, like, also Grey Worm would also have boldness and courage, giving them +2 dice when they're at full ranks. So that'd bring them up to 10. But if
Oh,
these guys aren't way cheaper than their swordmaster, counterparts, why not just take the 10 dice from the swordmasters and make that a 12?
yeah, and then you're and in the swords masters, you're pretty much moving at cavalry speed because they're
Right.
so fast.
And
You
having
know?
precision.
Yeah. So I have a love-hate relationship with this unit. I sit back and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that they're here, but I they need to be like 7 points. If they're more than 7 points, if they're 8 points, that's going to be a tough sell for me.
7
And
points. This is a beastly unit for 7 points.
you got to also look at the whole at the faction as a whole, right? The faction as a
Yeah.
whole faction as a whole has expensive units, right? So if we have and out of expensive units, yes, this is a beastly defensive unit, but I don't know that I would choose this over. And I'm probably going to get so you're probably going to get like hate emails over me saying this. I don't know
Oh.
that I'd choose this over Outriders and an Outrider Co.
Oh,
I'd
well,
rather
Outriders
have
are just so good. So
so
good for
good.
their
And
cost.
exactly, that's what I mean. The Outriders plus the Outrider Co. That's 7 points,
I
right?
think, I don't know, like, it's a cheap thing that can do a lot of work and it's hard to pin down. These guys are gonna probably be expensive. These guys are not gonna be hard to pin down. My fantasy, though, is being able to field, like, 3 units of Unsullied Pikemen and a bunch of Screamers.
Just to
But
have the
that's
horde coming down,
because, like, "Oh, you don't wanna charge me in the front?" We're like, "Well, I have no flanks. Like, go ahead." Like,
just slowly moving
right? But I
together.
don't know if that's how this faction actually plays.
I am probably going to be completely wrong about these guys. But I kind of feel like I feel like Josh when he was talking about the warrior sons.
Oh boy,
uh,
oh boy, here we go.
you know, like
Legendary.
yeah, exactly. Where people where he wasn't sold on them, and then all of a sudden they start coming out doing work. I'm sure this is going to be the same thing, but as of right now, I am not too sold on these guys. Um, but like I said, if they're 7 points, I could see that. If they're 8 or 9, that's going to be really a tough sell.
Yeah. I unfortunately, the style of play I like to bring is if there's something I like, I will like run it and run it and run it, figuring like I just need to get good at it or better at
Sure.
it.
Sure.
And I feel like what's gonna happen is this is gonna like that was with me with Spear Wives from like day one, and I was like, I'm gonna make Spear Wives work. And then when they changed,
Did
I was
you?
like, oh man, not really. Like sometimes, but it was that thing where people would be like, the burden of execution. It's like, what you did, you could have done easier with this. And it's like, I don't care. Like I'm running Spear Wives. Uh, and then they changed Spear Wives and that made it better. But I feel like this is a unit that I'm gonna be like, I will want to learn how to make these work. But I can already see that like I'm not at the skill level where if I'm playing someone of comparable or greater skill, that this unit will be, easy to use.
Yeah, like I said, it might be. Like I said, I'm probably going to be wrong about it, but I think that I think this is going to really slide into the overarching theme of Targaryens are not for beginners.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, I think that's the thing is like whenever a unit is so elite, you have to be really careful with it. For me, like I keep reiterating this is at my skill level, like, that's where I see like, wow, if I can get some work out of Outriders, a really good player is going to murder people with these combinations because
oh
of their
yeah,
nimble positioning, arc dodging. Josh was a big X-wing player. Like I just look at that, and I'm like, oh man, like yeah, arc dodging and being out of lines of charge and stuff like going to play right into his strengths. And I just think, like you're saying, like Targaryens is one of those factions where if you are a skilled player, there's a lot of units that you can get a lot of work out of if you use them skillfully.
yeah, definitely.
Well, and that brings us through all of the new content except for the mighty Greyjoy that were revealed. And so we've got, the first Greyjoy spoilers revealed at CMON Expo. This faction, all the cards and everything we've talked about is subject to change before final release. So, they may switch it up, but more so than anything, what we get to see is what they're trying to go with the Greyjoy. And oh man, Mike, this looks so good. It gives me a little bit of a free folk vibe, but it's not going to be someone I was commenting like, oh, it's like another horde army. I don't think it's a horde army. Um, but
It's a I take what's yours army.
yes,
Oh, it's early on. I think it was on one of your podcasts. You had mentioned that the Night's Watch were kind of becoming like the zombie faction, right?
mhm,
And that's more what I'm seeing with the Greyjoys, where it's like
yes,
I'm taking the models out of your units to give me strength. I'm taking things from you, and I get better. Or
yeah.
I heal because I've in a fantasy setting, in a
Kind of
high
like
fantasy
a
setting.
vampire counts like zombie
Exactly.
way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like in a high fantasy setting, it would be because I'm sucking your blood or eating your corpses or
Yeah.
something like that. But in this, it's because I'm taking your crap. I'm taking your swords. I'm taking your lives.
Pillage.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Ironborn Reavers were the first unit revealed. It's got movement speed of 6. So these guys are fast. And this is the core infantry unit. So, I don't know. What do you think for point wise? There were some people being like, well, this unit, it stinks. It's got to be this. But, maybe when we go through their abilities, we can give some guesses at what we think that might cost. But this is the core base unit. So free folk, core unit, Raiders. They've got gang up, Starks, Sworn Swords, Lannister Guardsmen. These are the guys that give you the basic feel of the faction. And so they've got a movement to the 6. They are fast. They've got hand axes, 4+ to hit, 863, armor 5+, morale 7+, but their hand axes are sundering. So their base unit has sundering. And they have a pillage mechanic. After completing a melee attack for each enemy rank this unit destroyed, it gains 1 pillage token. Each unit may only have up to 2 pillage tokens at any time. And you get to roll +1 attack die and gain +1 to hit per pillage token, meaning that when they're fully loaded with 2 pillage tokens, they're hitting on a 2+ on 10-8-5 as the core unit.
I think this is a really solid core unit. I think the defense value, the armor value is a weakness. But I think that it's going to be pretty easy with Sundering to get those pillage tokens. So I think more likely what you're going to see these guys running around with is 3+ to hit 974 for most of it.
Yeah.
know.
And oh, I
For
just love this mechanic though. Like, and it's funny talking to different people. Like some people are like, I've got a buddy who's super into Starks, but like kind of really doesn't play Stark. He like plays Tully. And he's like, I don't know, like those guys don't seem so good. And then me as a free folk player, I'm like, oh God, like they're gonna have two pillage tokens like all the time.
I know, right?
Like, right? This is such a wide spread of how they're gonna play. But what's so cool about this is that there's gonna be units on the board where I'm fighting my battle and I might want to kill a unit and be like, oh no, wait, I don't want to attack these guys on the objective. I want to kill that unit over there that's weakened and down on this last rank and has two pillage tokens because I want to wipe them out. And so now like the board state is going to be have like another little mini game on it of like, are you wiping out your opponent's units that have pillage tokens so that you don't have these like uber monster units going around?
Yeah, and luckily, as of right now, from what we've seen, I have not seen like a berserker unit, right?
Right.
Where they get stronger as they get lower, because that means as in the war attrition game, right?
Right.
That they get weaker as they get the pillage token because they're fighting each other, right? We haven't
Right.
seen I get stronger as I'm losing ranks, but I'm also getting pillage tokens, so I'm getting even stronger. That would just be that would be really rough. But
And I want to be really careful here not to start like rampant speculation or have people like quoting the podcast, but this is like rampant speculation. So Free Folk Raiders have gang up. That's really the only time it shows up in the faction, right? This pillage mechanic, though, this seems different. I'm guessing this is on a lot of things, but that's just my gut feeling. Like, could you see the
sure,
Greyjoy coming out and being like, "Oh yeah, the only guys who pillage are the Ironborn Reavers"?
no.
It's like a token mechanic for one unit. Like, or I mean, I guess that'd be like faith tokens, but I just see it being like this is central to the fabric of the actual army.
Identity.
Yeah. If another unit comes out and doesn't have pillage tokens, I might be concerned. But I think if they all have it, like this is really cool.
I think that's really solid. And you mentioned the faith tokens. There are other units that have faith tokens, right? Like you can do the poor fellows and warrior sons, and then boom, you've got that again. You've got that theme where they
Right.
are the High Sparrow's people, and they are all about faith. So I can easily see Ironborn Reavers being all about the pillage, Ironborn being all about the pillage. That makes the most thematic sense.
Yeah.
But in talking about the point values for this, I can I think this is a 5 point unit. I think
Yeah.
that that it's a solid 5 point unit. I could see six,
Right.
honestly.
Six if there are other things in the faction that like
Based off
really
the cards.
synergize with it,
Yeah,
right? Or it's like
yeah,
if this unit's engaged and another unit attacks it, they get like a bonus pillage token or something like, okay,
yeah.
maybe.
Or you get like something, or there are cards that you can spend village tokens, right,
Mhm.
to do other
Oh
things.
yeah.
You know, like some of the tactics cards where it's like I play this and spend a pillage token, and now
To move them?
I
Oh,
get
or
to move them,
spend them. Yeah.
or I heal, or something like that, or you get to play it and it's got more. You can do a free maneuver, or you charge +2 for each pillage token or something like that. I can see that if the pillage tokens were vital to the tactics deck, I could see this being like a 6 point unit. But I think the 5+ defense and the 7+ morale keep it about a 4 or
And so
a 5, a 5.
and then for other units we know about, on the Gamma presentation, they showed an image of the House Harla Reapers, I think. And then on the live stream, Fabio was talking about archers. And I haven't gone back and rewatched it. But so I'm hoping it wasn't like one of those weird things where he was talking about like Stormcrow archers and being like very tricky with his wording. But not to like meta this too much. Usually it's Michael who's talking in like the lawyer speak, where he's like, well, technically, I never said. Fabio, he mentioned there's a ranged unit, and then they did say a ranged unit would come in the starter set. So, like, right, that means I'm assuming archers, unless there's some like axe throwers or something,
I
um,
think it's people throwing squids. I think
people
it's
throwing
just
squids, squid cannons, just ink guns.
going to be people with like aquariums in their arms. And just
Instead of like someone's got to just, if there's anyone that comes out like holding a chest of like loot, someone's got to mod it to be or convert it to be like a fish tank.
a fish tank.
with but so that would be so cool. And I'm wondering if pillage looks like right now it's tied to melee attack. I'm assuming maybe after saying how like I would expect this to be on all the units, maybe some like ranged units and stuff wouldn't have it because
It is melee. Okay.
that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
And
oh my god, this is enough. I mean, I also just I want to see the sculpts because these guys have a cool aesthetic as well. I don't know. It feels like reminiscent of Free Folk, or I don't know. Maybe it just speaks to me in the way that Free Folk spoke to me, or I'm like, these guys look cool.
I don't know that it really I don't know that it speaks free folk to me. To me it almost feels more neutral, you know,
Yeah,
like Boltony, where it's that glass cannon, where you got to go up there, you hit them hard, but you can't necessarily expect these guys to survive for a long
right. Whereas like Free Focus, you go up there, you don't hit them hard, and you can't expect them to survive for too long.
time.
It's like, okay. But I guess the
Exactly.
reason why I think Free Folk is really because of Asha Greyjoy, the Kraken's daughter. So she has the order Stubborn Tenacity. When this unit passes a panic test, one enemy engaged with this unit suffers D3 wounds, which is nice. But she's got
Mhm.
Inspiring Presence. Morale stat becomes 5+. And then Rally Point. Friendly units within short range may use the morale stat for all morale tests, which is kind of like Mance Raidery. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she has that kind of control element. But I can see that that's really cool in a faction like this, where it's not even just about swarming your opponent, because it's not a swarm faction, but it's about punching above your weight and like getting that damage out there and then having to worry about like attrition. You win attrition by being better and having pillage tokens, not by like trading back and forth like a Baratheon player.
Like I feel like the Asha Greyjoy, it kind of gives you this image, if you close your eyes, as to like a blob of units moving down the field,
Yeah.
together, right? Because I mean, if they all have kind of sucky morale as that, you're gonna want them all to be around Asha. Um, so I can easily see her in whatever kind of tanky unit they have, right? Because every faction has gotten a kind of a tanky unit, and then having a bunch of these guys all around her, just just pillaging, her starting the attack and then them swarming from the sides to steal the final model off of each um rank, to get those pillage tokens.
This is like the most exciting time for me because it's like it's like rampant speculation, right? Like I'm like a tanky unit, but like would it be tanky before or after it gets its pillage tokens? Like,
uh,
you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, like, how will it start? Or I don't know. It's so exciting. And then of course we have Aaron Greyjoy, the damp hair. I had a Bernstein Bears moment where in the video I put on YouTube, I swear in my mind it's a Dampier, like the Dampier, like the vampire. And it's not. It clearly says damp hair. So he's a
his hair
4-point
is wet.
NCU. Yeah, his hair
Like
is
his
wet. I
hair
mean,
is
it makes
wet.
sense. He's got like seaweed on his head. I see it now, but it's like one of those things until someone pointed it out and was like, dude, like someone on Reddit was like, I can't believe this guy said this. And I was like, hey, like good point. But 4-point NCU, rise again, harder and stronger. Uh, Aaron may only influence Greyjoy units, so sorry, neutrals. His influence, right? This also confirms they can take neutrals, I'm assuming.
Yes. Well,
So,
and it also means that you can't use it on your enemy.
right. Oh,
Um,
that's a good point.
yeah.
That might be why it's there then. So while influencing a unit, each time that unit performs an action, it may restore up to 1 wound. Each time it destroys an enemy with a melee attack, it may restore D3 wound. That's nice. I mean, especially in a faction where you're like, are we going to be sticking around to get our pillage tokens?
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes with the whole like pillage theme, I take what you have sort of a
Yeah.
thing. I think, I mean, it's expensive though for what it is, in my opinion. I think but again, I haven't seen
Right.
the rest of the
Right.
faction.
Exactly. When the other
Oh,
stuff comes
so
out, we're
there
going to be like,
might be
whoa.
there might be a lot of stuff, but like I saw that 4 and I was like, ooh, that's like that. But I'm comparing it to
It's like a Styre.
yeah, exactly. Or that's Aemon. I'm comparing
Oh,
it to
yeah.
Aemon in my head for who heals, and I'm like, oh, and heals way easier than this guy.
Well,
So
then I'm worried, is that like, is there gonna be things that increase the number of actions people can take?
exactly, that's the thing. And then you
Which
see it's performs an action,
right.
not necessarily an attack or an
So you
activation. So
you you perform 2 actions, you kill 2 ranks, it's, 2d3 plus 2.
yeah, and it's like you put this guy on your first turn, right? I think the reason that he can only influence Greyjoy units, you're right. I think it's now that I'm thinking of it, I think it's because of Boltons, right? Because you put what's his
Oh,
face, the
yeah.
you put a Ramsey in a unit, then
Right,
and then all of a sudden it becomes a House Bolton unit, right?
right.
And then you can use sadistic or cruel methods, so you can do an action before the round even starts, right? Then you do perform another action, and then you claim a zone, an attack zone, or retreat zone. You can really tag up a ton of healing with
That
this
must have been
card.
fun to be the play tester that figured that out, and everyone was like, "Nope, that's changing, like, no more." And then we have 2 more, and then we also have the Reaver Captain, which is an attachment. We do not know the points, so it has a certain, unknown element there, but it has an opportunity cost. It's gonna take a slot in your army, and it gives your unit outflank. You may hold this unit off the table instead of deploying it. Same thing as the Hrakars, short range of any flank table edge. But that's cool. You just get 1 unit of these guys that are ready to raid.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can easily put these guys in the what the first unit, the Reavers. I can easily see them leading a unit of Reavers from the back. They're gonna jump in, hit somebody in the flank or in the
Yeah.
rear. That's an easy combo. Easy combo for some pillage tokens.
And so I feel like it'd be cool to see what other attachments they have, because you're gonna have to be making that choice. Like, do I have like 2 or 3 units with Reaver Captains, or do I take some sort of beefier attachments in my units, or just save the points to get more models on the table?
Sure.
And then the Tactus card, only 1 Tactus card revealed. What is dead may never die. When a friendly combat unit would be destroyed, that unit remains in play with D3 remaining wounds. Attach this card to that unit. While attached, each time that unit performs an action, before resolving that action, it suffers D3 wounds unless you control the sword zone, the attack zone on the Tactus board. So I saw some really interesting initial comments to this card. Some people feeling like it was way too powerful, and some people feeling like actually it's rather weak.
I think it's about right, because essentially what you're doing is, again, tying in with my thoughts on this being like the undead, right? Because you're creating a zombie drone, right?
Right.
Where you have essentially you're gonna take D3 plus D3 wounds, right? Which is gonna wipe your unit if you don't just use the attack space,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't do anything but use the attack space. Otherwise, you're going to die before you resolve any action. So
Right.
you're telegraphing what that unit's going to be doing, which I think is okay.
Right. And so what you
Is
right, your unit gets, almost destroyed.
Yep.
You play this card. It's got D3 wounds. Then on your turn, you take the attack zone and attack this board with the Aaron Greyjoy. It then attacks and it heals up, hopefully killing something and getting more wounds, and your unit's still good to go.
That's exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do, just over and over and over again. You can't. This card stays on there until that unit's gone. So it's not like they're ever going to be a normal unit again, right?
Right.
They're you're like you need the damp hair to heal that unit up, or you need to pull some. Really need to do the money bags to heal that unit up if you even want to move your unit, right? Because even if you try and move your unit before you even do the action, you take the D3 wound.
Bye.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that I think this is a perfectly fair card. I don't think that it's overpowered. I don't think it's weak though. I think it's a great card for what it is. And I think it's very balanced actually.
This just looks like a fun faction to play against. Now we have 2 more cards. Euron Greyjoy, the Lord Reaper of Pike, who is a commander We see he's got cunning ploy, devious methods, and mind games for cards. So already kind of looking to be an interesting character.
Have we seen Cunning Ploy before? I think
Cunning
we
ploy,
have.
yes, we have. Cunning ploy is
It's a Tyrion. Okay, so Cunning Ploy reads a friendly combat unit activates. Instead of this unit performing an action, one previously activated combat unit may perform one action instead. And if you control the letters, opponents may not play tactics cards this turn. And that's from Tyrion Lannister, the Half Man.
Oh my gosh. So he's going to be a really interesting commander. And he's a fan favorite too, especially after the disservice he got in the movie, in the show. So,
oh man, I don't know. I liked him in the show. I think.
that's it. Mike Meeple has left the podcast.
I think.
How dare you, sir?
I think he was a perfect cartoonish villain.
Oh, that's the problem, right? He was like 110% like, I'm the bad guy. He needed like a long mustache he could twirl or something.
Exactly. I half expected him to like ride in on the back of some crazy racing machine and try to make sure like in wacky races.
Right. Oh God. I just kept showing up everywhere. You know, he's like, surprise, like I'm here, stab. And it's like, what the?
I've somehow developed a Gatling
teleporter.
Gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Gatling gun that fires ballistas.
It's like, you can't see me, but I can see you and shoot you, because that's how line of sight works. Oh, I could go too long. So we have Euron Greyjoy. He looks cool. I can't wait to hear more. And then we have this other guy, which is either Carl or Quarrel or Carl or QRL. Asha's companion.
I'm just gonna let you keep going. See how many more you can come up with.
I'm like 0 for 7 on pronunciation today. So Carl is Asha Greyjoy's companion, a 1-point companion attachment, ignoring the restrictions, but no other clues. He's wearing a mean set of armor though, or they are wearing a mean set of armor.
I think it's cool. I think it's nice to see the companion word and the companion thing come in, because I think last time we only saw the only other one we have is well, I guess we have that, and we have Jarl, not Jarl, Harma's Bannerman, and what's her facey, not Asha, or Osha. Osha, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the Greyjoys there. And so then the final thing, after all of this goodness, and I know we've been here for a while, is they revealed a sculpt for a dragon. And it's a dragon, beautiful sculpt. Clearly looks like it goes on a regular solo tray, right? Would that be your call?
Yes, I would have. Yes, it's a solo tray, but in my pure speculation, that I was thinking, oh, they're going to be siege units, but I'm clearly wrong. We're looking at it right now.
Yeah. So there was one person who was saying like, hey man, no, what are you talking about? Those are cavalry tray size. But that doesn't.
I mean, that's the same. That's the same size.
Oh, it is the same size. That guy was right. Wow. But I was like, you couldn't fit that on the tray. They'd bump into each other. It's a solo.
Oh, meaning that
there was going to be like a unit of 4 of those.
4 dragons.
There's only 3 dragons, but it'd be like 4 and a Daenerys or something. I don't see that though. That doesn't seem like it would be a thing.
Well, I mean, just based off of the physical limitations of how big that dragon is.
Yeah, right.
Like unless there's a very specific way that you put those dragons into the tray, I don't think they're going to be able to fit.
And I did see some people online commenting like, "Hey, wait, that's not an actual dragon. That's a wyvern or a wyvern. How do you say that? Wyvern?"
I would have said wyvern.
Yeah, they're saying that's a wyvern. George R. R. Martin apparently does not like 6-limbed dragons, right? So this is exactly how he envisions the dragons being. So I guess in Song of Ice and Fire, dragons are all that sort of wyvern body type. So that is a deliberate and important part that was put in there. So for those of you that were like, like where are the other 4 legs, or where are the other set of legs? But man, that sculpt looks amazing. I think the real big mystery is not the dragon, which looks amazing.
The dude with the net is.
Yeah, what is that? So, he's got like, it's a net. That looks like either, is that going to be a Greyjoy guy or is that like some sort of dragon handler?
I think it's a Targaryen sigil on the
Okay, so it's
on the banner. I can't
because
tell
I
though.
saw the net or like I don't know what it is, a net, a blanket, a cardigan, whatever he's holding to that fabricy thing, but it looks like a net. That made me think Greyjoy, but
Could
maybe
be a
yeah.
Greyjoy, like somebody who, like because they're fishing and all that stuff. That
Yeah, some
whole
sort of like
thing.
net trapper dude or something.
But I think that's the Greyjoy or the Targaryen sigil with the three-headed dragon on there. I think that's what it
Oh,
is.
you okay? Okay.
I could be completely wrong in that. So, um,
I think it was Mark Ridge in the comments on my Facebook page was saying, I feel like the banner was very deliberately and carefully posed, so it was making it
mhm,
hard to identify. It could
mhm.
be a three-headed dragon, could be a squid. Yeah,
Be a wolf.
the
Oh,
mind. It could be a wolf. No wolves. Come on, could be free folk. But man, so dragons, and how is that going to change the game? God, like how do you do dragons? Are they as powerful as a unit of swords, sword masters? Like, what's the?
I mean, I think they kind of have to be right
Do you
because
take? Do you take? Is it like a 10-point unit? You take 3 dragons and then you take 2 NCUs and like a cheap unit.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think
Really? That
think
would be
I think
crazy.
I think it's gonna be like each dragon is like 10 points.
Well, that's
Um,
how you mess up Greyjoys, right? Be like, come at me, like I don't got no ranks to give. Like we're
yeah,
dragons.
exactly. Yeah, you're gonna have nothing to pillage because I've only got one rank.
It's okay. My my
Um,
my B list will always just be like all trappers, free folk trappers, and be like, all right, dragons, like come at me and take your D3 wounds.
there's got to be something, right? There's got to be something where they can avoid that because that just thematically makes no
What?
sense.
No,
Like
free
it
folk trappers are the real hidden power behind the throne in
can't
Westeros.
fly over. They can't
Air traps, man. It's,
traps.
air traps.
You got
It's a
those cool
thing.
air traps.
Yeah, exactly. We send up little balloons with bear traps on them. Stupid
I
dragons.
was getting an image of the Ewoks from the Battle of Endor that were stringing up the things like a
Okay.
giant net across the trees for these dragons.
Yes, yes. All right, so how do we start the petition to get Mike Meeple some dragons to paint for us?
Oh man.
Because I want to see your painted tutorial for this because I feel like you would just kill it. You would do such a great job on like this great sculpt.
I mean the biggest thing if as always just visit the site, get me find me on Instagram, Twitter, build my Facebook. I'm currently at a little over 550 likes on Facebook, which is great, considering I remember when I started this I was happy when I was like 50, yeah,
Yeah.
but but I'm almost at 600. When I do get to 600, I'm probably going to be doing a giveaway, a unit box giveaway again, because I just like repaying you, like all of the listeners and readers for doing stuff like that. And a big one that I haven't really been saying because I kind of always thought it was up to me, right? But I was thinking about it. If is sharing my tutorials. If you guys find a tutorial of mine that you like or that has helped you, share it. Share it in your local group because I'm not in all of the local groups, right? I'm in some of the local Facebook groups on my in my area, so in California. But I mean, I'm not in the New York group. I'm not in the Chicago group. I'm not in the Connecticut group. So if you see a tutorial of mine and you're like, "Oh, this was awesome," and I think Mike could benefit from a few of people reading his stuff, and our games will be better if they're all painted a little bit better.
Yeah.
Share it in your local group, and direct people my way.
Absolutely, 100%. So you're giving a giveaway when you get to what?
600
Six,
followers or 600 likes, I should say. Um, that is when
aren't you at 655 right now?
I had 655. I thought it was at 555. Whatever the next 100
Okay,
is.
at
Whatever the next
700, okay, let me throw
700. Yeah.
you some free folk love. I will give you then an updated free folk card set because I feel like there's free folk players out there that need those updated cards. So let me toss one in there. When you get to 700, I'll send that out because we got to get Mike Meeple. You've been here. I feel like honestly, it's kind of weird now. Like I was looking around, like as far as content creators, we have a lot of new people joining in, and it's amazing because right there's no limit to the demand, right? Like we've got a bottleneck of supply. There's not enough people making content. There's too much demand. Like we can never satiate that. But a lot of people who started out like are have other things come up. Life gets in the way. You've been there since pre-release. You've been right from like the start. You were there.
Almost
So
why I think 18th was the first time I published a tutorial for Song of Ice and Fire. It was my Jaime Lannister one.
that's amazing. Yeah, I remember that. Like that was inspiring me to get in there and get painting. And so, you've been here for so long, working so hard, making awesome content. So, anything we can do to support you, of course. And, thanks for coming on. The other thing is just to give Mike is another plug here is that you're just like a genuinely good person and you're doing this and helping others and just being awesome. And, and I think it's important to like, note that and say thank you. And so whatever we can do, let's get you to 700. And the other thing is like, if you play other games, like honestly, I cannot believe how freaking amazing your Marvel Crisis Protocol tutorials are. That has just like blown me away. I don't know if you released it yet, but you have a Black Widow that you painted up that just looks like phenomenal.
Black Widow should be dropping this week.
Okay, so if people are into Marvel Crisis Protocol, like you gotta check out how he's painting his minis. And I think maybe the easiest way is your Facebook page and then your Instagram, right?
A Facebook page and Instagram, and then
And then
really
check out the blog, of course.
if you just Google Mike Meeple, or even painting poorly, I think if you just, I should be the first thing that pops up. Yeah, I'm the first two things that pop up if you just Google the phrase Mike Meeple or painting poorly. I'm like my blog is the first stuff that'll show up, which is great. It means people know where to find me, and people are finding me not just through Facebook, which is excellent. But I will do a little bit of self promotion, more so is because Chase and I were talking about doing some co-sponsored Zoom painting lessons live with me.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, keep an eye out for more details as to how that's going to work, because I want to paint with you guys. So this will be your guys' opportunity to paint with me. Both Chase and I should be sharing some info on it on our respective Facebooks, as to how you guys can be a part of that, and join in and just kind of help us during this time when we have to stay at home to discover new aspects of the hobby that we all love.
You know who we should get to join in on that?
Fabio,
we got to get him painting stuff up. Let's do it, okay? So let's settle on the unit we want to paint, and let's get him painting up his unit, because I want him to be playing. And so first off, guys, like if you don't play with painted minis, that's totally cool. Like I'm not one of those guys that thinks you have to paint your minis, but I think it just makes me happy when I see people playing with the minis that they painted and feel good about. I want Fabio to have a full painted army here that he's done. So I'll see if we can talk him into somehow. But yeah, let's get that out there. So stay tuned, guys, for upcoming information about our Zoom painting collaboration. It's going to be awesome. And Mike, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Chase.
And in the meantime, I hope you get your miniatures on
the table.